Let's practice solving some multi-step equations together. So for number 1, we have this equation of 8x minus 2 is equal to negative 9 plus 7x. Okay, so we have 4 different options. We could take away 8x from both sides. We could also add 2 or add 9 or take away 7x. Now I like to try to get my variables to the same side, so I'm going to go ahead and take away 7x from both sides, so we get a positive coefficient for x, right? You could take away 8x, but again, I'm going to try to get positive coefficients when I can. For the 8x minus 7x, that's just going to be 1x on the left side minus 2. And on the right side, we're left with a negative 9 because the 7x minus 7x will cancel out to get 0. Then to get x completely alone, let's go ahead and add 2 to both sides using the addition property of equality. Go ahead and add 2 to both sides. This negative 2 and positive 2 will make 0, so we can write x is equal to, and on the right side, negative 9 plus 2, that's going to equal negative 7. All right, so that would be the solution. For number 2, let's go ahead and write this one down. We have 5x minus 14, and that's going to equal this 8x plus 4. Okay, so again, I like moving my x's to the left side, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away 8x and take away 8x. If you wanted to take away 5x and 5x from both sides, that's fine if you want positive coefficients. I just prefer this. It's perfectly fine. 5x take away 8x is going to be negative 3x. We still have a minus 14 on the left side. On the right side, this 8x and minus 8x will cancel out, so we're just going to be left with a positive 4. Next, let's go ahead and add 14 to the left side and add 14 to the right side of the equation. If we go ahead and do that, then we're going to see that this negative 14 and positive 14 will cancel out. We're just going to get 0, so we'll get negative 3x is equal to, and on the right side, 4 plus 14 is going to equal 18. Finally, to get a coefficient of 1, let's go ahead and divide both sides by negative 3, just because a negative 3 over negative 3 will cancel each other out to make a positive 1, or 1x. We can just write x though, and on the right side, 18 divided by negative 3, that's going to equal negative 6. So x equals negative 6 would be our solution. For number 3, we have this equation, but it looks like we have parentheses as a part of our equation this time. So we have 3x minus 5 is equal to this negative 8 multiplied by the quantity of 6 plus 5x. Okay. Now what we're going to do here is the left side can't be simplified at all, but this negative 8 can be distributed to both of these terms inside of this parentheses, right? So on the left side, we still have this 3x minus 5. On the right side, if we multiply this negative 8 times 6, that's going to be negative 48. Go ahead and write that down. And then if we distribute this negative 8 multiplied by positive 5x, that's going to be a negative 40x. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and now see if we can combine some like terms by moving some pieces around. So I'm going to add 40x to both sides of the equation. I just want to get my x's on the same side here and together on the left side. So 3x plus 40x is going to be 43x, right? Okay, and then minus that 5, and that's going to equal negative 48 on the right side. And this is all going to go away because those are opposites. They add to 0. Then we can go ahead and add 5 to both sides of the equation. If we go ahead and add 5, then that minus 5 on the left side is going to get canceled out to make 0. So we just have 43x on the left side. And on the right side, negative 48 plus 5 should be negative 43. And so we're almost there. Let's just go ahead and divide both sides by 43 so we can get x to have a coefficient of 1. So dividing both sides by 43, x will equal negative 1. There's our solution. Here's number 4. For number 4, we have 2 times the quantity of this 4x minus 3. Go ahead and take away 8, and that's going to be equal to 4 plus this 2x. Okay, so before we do anything, let's go ahead and distribute this 2 to this 4x and this 2 to this negative 3. 2 times 4x is going to be 8x. 2 times this negative 3 afterwards is going to be negative 6, so 8x minus 6 minus 8 is equal to 4 plus 2x. Okay, so at this point, what we're going to do is let's just combine these like terms on the left side before we do anything else. So keep this 8x, and then negative 6 minus 8 is negative 6 plus negative 8 if you add the opposite. So that's going to be minus 14, and that's equal to 4 plus 2x. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and see if we can move our x's together. So I'm going to take away 2x and take away 2x. Let's go ahead and do that. So 8x, take away 2x on the left side here, that's going to be 6x. So we have 6x minus 14 is equal to 4. And then do we have any x's left here? It looks like these are opposite, so those will cancel each other out. Now let's go ahead and move the constants to the right side. We can do that by adding 14 to both sides of this equation. If we add 14 and add 14 here, on the left side, negative 14 and positive 14 make 0. So we'll just have 6x is equal to, and then 4 plus 14 is equal to 18. Finally, we can divide both sides by 6, so we get a coefficient of 1 for x. So 6 divided by 6 will cancel out to make 1. And then on the right side, we have 18 divided by 6, and that's going to equal 3. So x equals 3 would be the solution. For number 5, let's go ahead and write this one down. We have 24x minus 22 is equal to negative 4 times the quantity of 1 minus 6x. Okay, so we're going to start by distributing this negative 4 to the 1 and distributing it to this negative 6x. So we'll just kind of leave this 24x minus 22 alone on the left side of the equation. Now negative 4 times 1, that's equal to negative 4. And then negative 4 times negative 6x is going to be a positive 24x. All right, now let's go ahead and combine our x terms by subtracting 24x on the right side and subtracting 24x on the left side. And hopefully you see something pretty interesting that's going to happen here. But on the left side, these are going to cancel out, and on the right side, these will also cancel out. So if that happens, we're just going to have negative 22 is equal to negative 4, right? Now, is that a true statement? Absolutely not. That is not true. And if you ever get a statement that looks like that, where you get a number equals another number and it's not true, then we can say here that there is going to be no solution for this equation. Okay, so if that happens in another problem, make sure you know what to do if you see a false statement. All right, number 6. This one looks like we have a couple sets of parentheses. So we have negative 3 times the quantity of this 4x plus 3. And then we're adding 4 times the quantity of this 6x plus 1. And this whole thing is equal to 43. Okay, so we're going to have to distribute this negative 3 to both of these terms over here. And we're also going to have to distribute this 4 to both of the terms in this parentheses, right? So negative 3 times 4x, that's going to equal negative 12x. And then negative 3 times positive 3, that's going to equal negative 9. So we'll write minus 9. Then this 4 times 6x, that's going to be a positive 24x. And then 4 times this 1 is going to be a positive 4. So distributing on the left side, that's what we're going to get. And now let's see if we can combine some like terms here. So on the left side, we have negative 12x and a positive 24x. Combining those, we will get a positive 12x. And then combining this constant of negative 9 plus 4, that's going to be negative 5. So we have 12x minus 5, and that's equal to 43. Okay, so now we just have a two-step equation, and so we can go ahead and add 5 to both sides of the equation. If we go ahead and do that, then on the left side, these the negative 5 and positive 5 will cancel out to make 0. So we get 12x is equal to, and on the right side, 43 plus 5, that's going to be 48. Okay, now to get the coefficient of x to be 1, let's go ahead and divide both sides by 12. So when this cancels out, we'll just get 1x instead, right? 12 over 12 is just 1 or 1x. So we can write x is equal to, and on the right side, 48 divided by 12, that's going to be equal to 4. All right, here is number 7. For number 7, we have the equation 12 is equal to negative 4 multiplied by the quantity of negative 6x minus 3. Okay, first things first, let's go ahead and distribute this negative 4 to both terms inside this parentheses. If we do that, we have 12 is equal to, and then negative 4 times negative 6x is going to be a positive 24x. And then this negative 4 times negative 3, that's going to be positive 12. Okay, so let's get the constants together. We can go ahead and subtract 12 and subtract 12 from both sides of the equation. If we go ahead and do that, then over here on the left side, 12 minus 12 is 0. 12 minus 12 is also 0. So we're going to get 0 on the left side is equal to 24x. Okay, now 24 times something is 0. The only thing that could be is 0. So if we go ahead and divide both sides by 24 here, on the left side, we're going to get 0 divided by 24. That's still going to be 0, right? So we can go ahead and write 0. And on the right side, 24 over 24 is 1, or 1x. So we can say 0 is equal to x. I like turning it around and writing x equals 0 though, so let's go ahead and write that. For number 8, we have a negative on the outside of the parentheses. Now keep in mind that there's technically an invisible little -1 on the outside. I'm actually just going to write it in, so hopefully it's more clear. So we have -1 times a quantity of 7 minus 4x, and that's equal to 9. Okay, now let's go ahead and distribute this -1, multiply that by both of these terms on the inside. -1 times 7 is going to be -7, and then this -1 times -4x is going to be a positive 4x. This is going to equal -9. Okay, so let's get the x term alone. We can add the constants to both sides. So let's add 7 and add 7. If we go ahead and add 7 to both sides here, -7 plus 7 will be 0. So we can just write 4x on the left side. And on the right side, -9 plus 7, that's equal to -2. Okay, so then we can go ahead and divide both sides by 4, so we get a coefficient of 1. This 4 over 4 will be 1, so we get 1x, or just x. And on the right side, we have this -2 over 4. If we simplify this, this will be just -1/2. All right, so this would be the solution here. We have a rational solution for this one. All right, for number 9, this one is a little bit interesting because we have two variables here. Now, since the whole worksheet here is dealing around solving for x, let's just go ahead and solve this in terms of x. So in this case, we don't know what p is, but that's okay. We're just going to rearrange this, so we'll keep it very simple here, and go ahead and add 4 to the left side and add 4 to the right side, right? So if we knew the value of p, we could solve for the value of x, but sometimes when we solve equations, we just have to make it in terms of a variable. So on the left side, -4 plus 4 is 0, so we're just going to be left with x. And on the right side, we have -9 plus 4, which is going to be -5, so it would be -5 plus p. Okay, now you could rearrange this as well and say x is equal to p minus 5, and this would actually be as far as we can go for this type of equation, right? So if we knew what p was, then we could figure out what x is. So, but in terms of x, this would be our solution. Here is number 10. For number 10, we have this equation of x minus 1, and that's going to be equal to 5x plus 3x minus 8. Now the left side doesn't have any like terms we can combine, but the right side has this 5x and 3x, so we can combine those. So leave this x minus 1 alone on the left side. 5x plus 3x equals 8x, so we have 8x minus 8. Now I think everything is fully combined on either side, so let's just try to get the like terms together by adding or subtracting on both sides of the equation. I want my x's to be on the left side, so I'm going to take away 8x and take away 8x. If you want to take away 1x from both sides, you can do that if you don't want negative coefficients. 1x take away 8x, that's going to be -7x. So we have -7x minus 1 is equal to 8x minus 8x on the right side becomes 0. So we're just left with -8 over there. Now let's go ahead and get the constants to the right side. We can do that by add 1 to both sides of this equation. If we do that, this -1 plus 1 will become 0. So we're left with -7x is equal to, and on the right side, -8 plus 1, that's equal to -7. Okay. Finally, we can divide both sides by -7, divide by -7, -7. -7 divided by -7 is 1, so we'll have 1x, or just x. And on the right side, -7 divided by -7 is equal to +1, right? So very similar, same idea, so x is equal to 1 for this one. All right, number 11 looks pretty long here. We have a lot of pieces, so we have 4x take away 6 minus 9x is equal to -12x plus 5 plus 7x minus 11. So let's see if we can combine some like terms here. On the left side, we have a 4x and we're taking away 9x. So 4x take away 9x would be -5x. And then we have this -6 over there with it as well. And on the right side of the equation, we also have -12x plus 7x, and that's also going to be -5x. And then it looks like we have two constants on the right side. So +5 take away 11, that's going to be -6. So if you notice, this equation is actually pretty interesting because the left side and the right side match identically, which tells us that we have an equation that has infinite solutions, okay? So that anything is going to work here to make this true. Now, to go ahead and simplify it a little more though, what we typically do is just add the x terms to both sides. So this will become 0, this will become 0, and you're going to be kind of left with this statement of -6 equals -6, right? Now, if this is a true statement, that means that any number will make this equation work. So you can say that x will equal all real numbers, and write all real numbers. Okay, so this one has an infinite number of solutions. When you get a true statement like a number equals another number, or you notice that one side of the equation matches the other side of the equation, then there are all real numbers for the solutions. Okay, so let's go ahead and check out number 12. For number 12, we have this equation that has quite a bit of steps to it. So we have -5 multiplied by the quantity of 1 minus 5x. We're going to add 5 times the quantity of -8x minus 2. And this is going to be equal to -4x minus 8x. Okay, so we have to use the distributive property a couple times here. So distribute this -5 to both of these terms, and distribute this +5 to both of these terms. Okay, so -5 times 1 is going to be -5, and then -5 times -5x, that's going to be a +25x. Then 5 times -8, that's going to be -40x, and then 5 times -2, that's -10. Okay, the right side looks like we can actually combine like terms here. So -4x combined with -8x, that's -4x plus -8x, so that's -12x, okay, if we combine those. Now before we keep going, looks like we can combine some terms on the left side of the equation. So we have 25x take away 40x. And let's see, if we do 25x minus 40x, that should be -15x. But then on the left side, we have these constants of -5 take away 10. -5 take away 10 is the same thing as -5 plus -10. So that's going to be -15, and that's going to be equal to -12x. Okay, so now we have a kind of a 2-step, 3-step equation here. Let's see if we can get our variables to one side and our constants to the other. I know I like usually having my variables on the left side, but we have a constant there, so I'm going to go ahead and move my variables to the right side here, so we don't have to add any extra work on top of this. So if we do that, -15x plus 15x would be 0. So we're just going to have -15 on the left side of the equation, and then -12x plus 15x, that's going to be a +3x on the right side. Next, let's divide both sides by 3. Divide by 3. On the left side here, -15 divided by 3 is going to be a -5. And on the right side, this 3 divided by 3 is going to be 1, or 1x. So we're going to say that x equals -5. We can turn that around. That would be our solution. So there you have 12 different practice problems of solving some multi-step equations. Hopefully, if you know your integer rules, that makes this a little bit more doable, as well as your distributive property. So if you take a look at each of them, make sure whatever you do to the left side, you do to the right side if you're trying to move some terms around, as well as try to combine like terms if you see common terms or like terms on the same side of the equation. And then if you ever have an instance like in number 9 here, where you have multiple variables but you're solving for x, that's okay. You're just going to have to isolate x to one side of the equation like we did here and write it in terms of it. So if we knew the value for p, or we made up hypothetical values, you could then solve for x, but you can't just say you know the value for x without knowing the value for p for those types of equations. All right, so there you have some different practice problems. Hopefully you found it helpful. As always, keep up the great work, and I'll see you in the next one.